Alright, you know the title. This is the book from the title. If I'd summarize the summary, I'd say it's a 7 out of 10. Has some good stuff. And I'll further go through my impression of the book. Alright, first impressions. This book is a bit outdated, but it had a bunch of practical exercises. Let me think. I was recommending to if you're starting at the very bottom of being social, you should probably make eye contact with strangers on the street, then move on to smiling, maybe then saying hi, and then you just build up from there, which is a very good. I've seen that advice pretty much everywhere, so I think just like a lot of general stuff applies to socializing as well, at least from what this book is telling me. Yeah, it backs up its points like that, and I think that's great. Yeah, the actionable advice was in this book too, which so I kind of basically already covered that. I made some notes in the back. You won't be able to see, but I'm trying to go through them. Yeah, I see a lot of things similar to other books I've read before. You can see on this shelf I've read a lot of books. I don't go all the way on the advice. All the way on the advice for it. But it's very similar because pretty much most of those books I have, they try to give you a specific mindset to follow. And most of them would, the mindset would boil down to take easy, slow, baby steps you can manage so that you can build up the habit and make it a lifelong thing. And that would make sure that you'll never break it and have to start over and stumble around. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I have to say that most of what these giving mindset books boil down to. Yeah, so I wrote down consistency and failure is the main points it's emphasizing. Consistency, very important, number one thing, and then failure is being okay with failing as long as you learn from it. Which I guess is also very general advice. But, well, obviously, you can see the thickness. It's not not how I'm summarizing it. We'll go through more notes I've written down as well. Okay, let's think. Pros and cons for how to communicate with confidence by Dr. Mike Bechtles. Bechtle, something like that. The book was pretty easy to follow. There's plenty of plain text, and it doesn't. I wouldn't say it requires a high IQ and quote. Okay, so the other thing that's great is it's actually much shorter than the average self-improvement book. It's about 220 pages, which is actually short, considering the text is also kind of big for it. And there's plenty of blank space too between chapters and stuff, which is useful. Another thing I liked about this book actually is it gives you like a little test to do to see what kind of a person you are, if you're an extrovert, introvert, or ambivert, and it's like it explains it really well with like if you're an introvert, social things take energy away from you. If you're an extrovert, they give you energy, and if you're an ambivert, you're somewhere in between where it can take and can give. So I skew a little bit more to the introvert side, but I'm still ambivert, technically, according to this book. It does have some outdated advice. I think the author made this book in the 70s or 80s or something, maybe even the 90s. I'm being very vague about that. I just know this book is pretty old because of the how it talks about the internet. Or electronic emails. It doesn't even really talk about internet, actually, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. So that's a big minus, I guess. I think I would recommend this pretty much to everyone. Like, there are bits of advice where an incredible extrovert or an incredible introvert could get it, or any layman or average person, average Joe, really anyone, I think could benefit from this book, because I don't think anyone could really like follow all of this stuff. You can agree with some like points and like disagree on others, but there's definitely like things you can overlook, because I think most people think conversations are like simple things like can't like oh, I just have to go with the flow. I shouldn't pre-plan. I shouldn't take notes on people to make sure I remember details because I'm talking to so many people, or because that's not how anyone ever does it usually. But that's why I think this book is important. It's culturally pushes the culture of socialization, and gives away to preconceptions to just make you more effective, and it gives you good reasons why these like good arguments why like you should take notes, because it shows, at least to the person, if you're being honest, you know, I took notes on this because something. You just have to be honest, it says. Alright, so how it enforces focusing on everyone for this book is like, even in the first step where it asks you to be happy with how you are, like what's your unique angle, are you introvert, extrovert, ambivert, it tells you like the problems you'll face. Like, I'm sampling from the book, and I'll paraphrase it. For the introvert, you'll have like you'll worry about how you come across to other people, or saying the right thing, or getting stuck or tongue-tied, or just starting the conversation itself. But with extroverts, you'll have problems with not like getting your point across and having the other person get your point of view or agree even, or like getting bored of the conversation because you know, not getting enough. Why some people are like uncomfortable talking a lot. Just don't get any introverts at that point, basically. Or understanding what quiet people bring. Which I guess that's true. I guess that really ties into the previous statement, but you know. So one of the things that emphasizes you should know who you are. I'm ambivert on the introvert side. Another thing it challenges is this preconception of, oh man, that guy looks confident. That person looks confident. Everyone's not struggling on this meeting, or man, everyone can handle this presentation stuff, huh? No, that's not true at all. Because you don't see the inside of the mind when they have to do public speaking, which is like one of the number one fears, I think, for real. Like, number one, public speaking is the scariest thing ever in today's world, which is crazy. So it says, just because you see the other person be confident doesn't mean they actually are, which I think is really true. Another thing I recommend is you should not prepare topics. You should just listen instead. Like, I see it so many times when some of my friends are like so excited to say this one thing, they just ignore what I say and say what they want to do anyway. And then we never go back to what I was saying at all. Or I do that sometimes too when I'm way too excited about stuff. It's a real problem. Because I've seen it so many times. It's crazy. And it says to stick to your strongest tool. And in this case, your tool is the style of conversing you're using. So I'm not going to go too deep into it because I still want to not make this too long and not just plagiarize the book completely, but I do remember, like, I didn't list the tools or anything, I don't think, but it was a very poignant thing to me, at least. And in another part of chapter 2, it talks about the number one thing when you start a conversation is you need to start looking for common ground. Unless, literally, after you've done the introduction, look for things like, how long have you lived in the same country, or are you both doing the same type of work, or what kind of hobbies do they have? Do they match yours, or are you interested in things they like? Stuff like that. So yeah. Yeah, I put a really cringy example, but it's funny to me right now. Well, maybe I shouldn't share it. Maybe I'll cut this part out. Don't mind then. Yeah, so tells the reader to be open but not defensive. And I've suffered from this problem quite a bit. Like, and it happens with my friends a lot too. Like, mostly with my friends more than strangers. I don't know why, but like, I just feel the need to defend myself sometimes when I say like a thing that they don't agree with, because I take it harder, which I guess I shouldn't really, but I do open myself up for more like scrutiny because I'm so much more honest. Oh yeah, and it also talks about trying to see through their eyes. So basically, if you don't agree with them, you want to listen and try to put your mind into their perspective, like, but you don't have to be combative. You can still keep your opinions to yourself if you don't think that they will appreciate it or take kindly to it. So you really get the person talking, you get like a piece of their mind without getting in trouble for expressing your own. And that will give you some nuggets of info on this person. Yeah. I think I've also deployed this kind of thing, but like only when it needs to be deployed. Like I'd usually share my opinion too, with friends at least, unless I literally cannot do that, because it would be a very bad idea. But also it talks about, chapter 3 also talks about how starting a conversation is like 90% of that's the biggest hurdle anyone can face. And it's so true. I cannot tell you how many times I've passed by someone I wanted to talk to, and all I could do was just stare and try to think of something, but as soon as I did it, that was it. I could have just started talking to them weeks ago at work and stuff. But I decided to try to get the perfect start of a conversation, even though it doesn't matter what start you have. Another thing it talks about, which I've never thought about, is when you get through your introductions and you think and you talk and think about people, and you should really try to be an honorary host wherever you go. Like, connect people. By connecting people, you're making a network, even if it doesn't ultimately get to you. You've improved people's social lives, and you've made the group tighter, which will lead to better conversations, better connections, and you make the whole atmosphere less awkward, which is like a big thing. If that was a playing card, I'd be like, activate first turn, please. God damn. Oh yeah, and it's like part 6 also covers the actionable advice I was talking about. Like, you should approach people in public and say good morning or something like that, or just give eye contact or smile, and that will give a little impression to someone and make you more comfortable in initiating conversations where you should, or like where it's more important. You'll have a less of a barrier, as long as it's endless repetition. It's anything with a skill. You just need to endlessly repeat until you feel comfortable. Okay. Part 7, it talks about common ground is like one of the most important things after introduction, which I've already talked about, but I already implement this rule really, but it says talk about yourself, don't talk about yourself, sorry. Ask about them. I implement this rule quite a bit. Oh yeah, and if you run out of topics, you should focus on the unique circumstances of how you're doing, where you are, how are you doing it. And then it talks about how to prepare for social situations. So take notes, and in the next conversation you can build rapport and show that you care enough to remember by taking notes and then slipping them in the introduction, like oh yeah, I remember talking to you about this thing a few months ago. How's that going now? Something like that. Like, oh yeah, didn't you fish out that massive trout? Whatever happened to that? Something like that. just a fishing metaphor. Yes, so another way is good, but this is obviously a bit old-timesy. I doubt anyone really reads the local newspaper, but it says to read the front page of news to keep up to date. I mean, I've never done it before, so it's definitely like actionable advice that I could take to prep for convo, but like no one my age is really doing that, or but I guess I could just inform people, so that gets a free pass out of that, I guess. I could be the new newspaper for my friends and stuff. Good work. Also talks about going to do new things, even for like an hour or two, just so you have more things to talk about. I cannot tell you how that makes me feel. It makes me feel really happy because I love being the jack of all trades, but obviously I'm a master of none, if that's the case. But I always like taking up new things, even if I suck and I want to be the best at it. But obviously you can't be the best at 20 things. This advice, like, it gives me another reason why I should do it, which is way more practical than, oh, let's get good at this thing. Wait, no, let's get good at that thing. Oh, let's get good at this. Oh yeah, it also places importance on sincerity and honesty. If you're sincere and honest, the other person can forgive you like 90% of the time, basically. As long as it's not too like severe or something like that. Okay, now it talks about how to avoid disasters, basically. Don't express controversial opinions unless you have trust already built in. Don't talk about work until later. That basically means you can avoid like stuff like, oh, I'm employed, or like, I hate this work so much I don't want to talk about it, or something. Just like sour the conversation. You can avoid it by doing that. And you need to make a two-way conversation, obviously. You can't just be talking, or you can't just be just listening. That's pretty basic stuff. You first meet someone, you probably shouldn't make any jokes, because that can always blow over. They might not understand the joke, you have to explain it, stuff like that. I don't know about this advice. I mean, I can agree with it half-heartedly, I guess, because I have had it blown up in my face, but I have also had like the biggest laughs from funny introduction. So it's just, and then it reinforces sincerity. Then it talks about the meme tier answer of relationships are onions. You need to peel back the layers, one layer at a time, to get closer in a relationship. If it's someone important, you should definitely pre-plan stuff and make them your project. Even though it says kind of not to do that, it can phrase it better than me, but yeah. Then it encourages to make flashcards. Well, flashcards are amazing if you use them. If you make sure to repeat basic things like, or maybe once every 5 minutes once in the 5-minute window when you brush your teeth, you're like, whoa, damn, okay. What did you do today? Something like that. stuff like that. Use like God tier questions on these flashcards, or generic good questions and stuff. And then it talks about how to diffuse difficult questions like marriage, kids, or a job, because those things can fall apart and make people depressed and make them hurt a lot. I know it's like a lot of verbal judoka, whatever it's called. Oh yeah, another thing we brought it. If you don't remember, just say so. The other person can't get angry if you just tell that you can't remember. You don't have to pretend to know something you don't. It's really not that much of a big deal. Just something I need to drill into my own head. And yeah, it also talks about stuff they care about, not just stuff you care about. But ideally, it should be something you care about and they care about. That's how I want to live my life, you know? So yeah, I hope you appreciate my review. I know it's a bit of a sudden thing. I wasn't really prepared. It's my first time reviewing a self-improvement / productivity book. I was not prepared. I was not prepared at all. I think it was all... I'll add just a little bit. I was talking about like showing your emotion through talking, and I'm pretty monotone if I have to say myself, so it's very important if I add this on body language too. I don't really focus on body language, so that's a big problem of mine. Mostly the monotone things. Just not used to it. But anyway, like, subscribe if you want to, click the bell if you want to, yep, that's all I've got to say, I think. Bye-bye.